Hey everybody, welcome to our weekly Wednesday webcast. Today we're going to talk about how to disrupt an $85 billion industry. Now, what industry is this? The beef industry. Now, I know it doesn't sound very exciting, but trust me here, it's very exciting. So I want to hit on three key points today. I want to hit on the history of this exciting beef industry. Number two, I want to talk about the growth strategies of those companies that are disrupting this industry. And three, I will talk about the future of protein. So it was 1998 when Oprah Winfrey was sued by the Texas cattle ranchers because she had a guest on her show who was a former cattle rancher turned vegetarian because of health issues. He noticed that when he extracted animal products out of his diet, his health improved. He also said there was a tie between the mad cow's disease that we were seeing in the UK and the way that these beef products are produced. Basically, he was saying that they take dead, diseased animals, even cats and dogs who were euthanized in the Humane Society, and using these as feed for actually the animals that we eat. So, of course, Oprah won the lawsuit because Oprah always wins. But what's interesting is that even today, there are 13 states in the U.S. who have food libel laws. Now, food libel laws make it incredibly impossible for someone like you or I to even speak out about food. It's set up in a way that basically we'll lose and basically will owe lots of money. So people generally don't do this. Now, it begs the question, if you have nothing to hide, why are you so litigious? Now, if we fast forward to 2008, the U.S. Cattlemen's Association is now suing startups, or actually trying to petition the USDA to sue startups to basically say that they can no longer use the words beef or meat in their packaging. They're making the assumption that when you or I see these products in the shelves that we're confused, we think that they're real beef. So I think they're going to lose that as well. But here's why I think this is really important. Over 70% of U.S. land is used for cattle and other animals. And if we look at this historically, the U.S. has been one of the largest producers of beef. If we look at the landscape, we see that there are just a handful of very large corporations in control of our food productivity. So this is really dangerous for any industry. We don't want to see a monopoly, but it's even more dangerous when it's actually our food supply. So let's go ahead and take a look at a 10-year period of the beef industry. So if we look at this chart, we can see from this time period, which was even before meat analogs were popular, the consumption of beef was decreasing as people became more concerned with saturated fats, cholesterol, and basically heart disease. So the prices here are going up as it became more expensive to produce the beef. So even though consumption's going down, prices were going up. So if we fast forward to 2018, people are consuming less beef as meat analogs improve in both the taste and the texture. Consumers are also able to find these products basically everywhere. From Walmart to Whole Foods, you can find these in White Castle to Jardiniere, any top restaurant. You can now purchase analog beef anywhere and it's delicious. So we can expect this trend to continue. So here's another way of looking at this market. Globally, processed meat is a $147 billion market compared to $2 billion for packaged meat substitutes. The gap is slimmer in the US, where processed meat sales are $29 billion compared to $700 million in meat substitute sales. So the US is definitely ahead of this trend. It's no surprise that the leaders in this space are in the US. So what does it take to disrupt the beef industry? Well, the way to disrupt this industry is to determine where and why the industry is failing. We see from the data that beef consumption is down while prices are up. In fact, beef prices reached an all-time high in June of 2018, while consumption reached an all-time low. Consumers no longer want to consume beef as it's high in its saturated fat, which raises our blood cholesterol, which increases the risk of heart disease. Yet prices are up because it's become more expensive to produce beef. So this sets the stage for disruption. Meat analogs provide a healthy alternative at a reasonable price. The only problem is beef analogs have to educate the consumer. So here are the strategies that are used by these companies. So Beyond Meat is a plant-based product launched in 2009. They announced a chicken product in 2013 prior to announcing their ground beef and their burger product. To date, they've raised $72 million. One of their best strategies was to display in the meat section. So this allows the brand to get exposure to meat eaters, non-vegans, and others not likely to find their product in the healthy food section. So the product is now available in the US, in Hong Kong. They're going to be launching pretty soon in Australia, Germany, and the UK. And in fact, they're in talks with Tesco, which is UK's largest grocer for distribution. So currently, the Beyond Burger is being sold in nearly 20,000 restaurants and grocery stores across the US alone. And in fact, the Beyond Burger has sold more than 13 million patties, and in some stores, it's actually outselling regular meat in the meat section. The next we see Impossible Foods, which is another plant-based product they launched in 2011. They announced a beef patty product in 2016. To date, they've raised $387.5 million. That's a huge increase from what Beyond Meat was able to raise. They launched their product in restaurant menus. Now, this was brilliant. Their burger debuted in July 2016 at Chef David Chang's Momofuku Nishi in Manhattan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This allowed consumers to discover the product in a highly appealing way, whereas purchasing from the store and attempting to prepare it at home may have led to lackluster results. So currently, the Impossible Burger is sold in close to 2,000 restaurants, including White Castle. So you can see here the strategies were basically to, one, put your product in the meat section so you'd actually get exposure to people who wouldn't typically go looking in the healthy foods. And second, the strategy of launching on menu. This is important because you can walk into a fancy restaurant and have a chef cook this for you, and you can realize how delicious it is, and then go back to your meat department at your grocery store and pick it up for yourself. So next, let's look at our cell-based products, which are created from self-reproducing cells, thereby producing meat that is an animal-based product, but it avoids the need to breed, raise, and slaughter huge numbers of animals. So Masa Meat is a cell-based product that launched in 2013. They released the world's first lab-grown burger, which cost $325,000 to make. The company was financed by Google's Sergey Brin. Unfortunately, the company was not able to get that price down, so they never were able to scale. And then next we saw Memphis Meat, which is another cell-based product. They launched in 2015, and they debuted their beef meatball in 2016. So to date, they've only raised about $20 million. So they don't expect their product to be in the stores until 2021. Now, a really cool company that just came on the scene as far as their product, but this company has actually been around since 1990, is Viveera. They're a very established plant-based company. And as I said, they've been around forever, but they just came out with a plant-based steak. And this is why they're getting a lot of attention. A lot of people think Viveera is a startup, but in fact, they've been around since 1990. They have a wide range of meat analog products and are just the first to launch the plant-based steak. But if you look at their website, they have tons and tons and tons of really cool plant-based products. So this plant-based steak is getting lots of attention. In fact, they sold 40,000 steaks in 1 week alone when they launched in Tesco in the UK. So this is definitely a company to watch. Another interesting thing happening in this space is Just, which was formerly Hampton Creek. They just recently announced expansion into clean meat products. So this is a company that brought us the vegan mayo. They expect their meat product to be in stores by the end of this year, 2018. So what does the future of meat analogs look like? It is predicted to be a $5 billion market by 2020. So expect to see lots of players jumping in. We can see that the food giant Cargill has invested in Memphis Meats. In fact, Cargill sold off all of their cattle feedlots, stating they wanted to free up the funds to invest in plant-based protein. Tyson, one of the largest chicken manufacturers, invested in both Beyond Meat and Memphis Meats, as well as Future Meat Technologies out of Israel. Nestle acquired Sweet Earth Foods, which sells products like the Harmless Ham, Benevolent Bacon, and even Maple Leaf Foods, a Canadian company known for selling Cam and Click, which is the Canadian version of Spam. They acquired Light Life. It's a company that makes plant-based products. And Field Roast, which makes both plant-based meats and also dairy-free cheese. China recently announced a $300 million deal to import lab-grown meat from 3 Israeli-based companies, Super Meat, Future Meat Technologies, and Meat the Future. This is all part of a broader plan to decrease China's meat consumption by 50%. So in reality, animals turn plants into food, basically. So these new disruptors that we're seeing are really just taking out the middleman, or should we say the middle cow. So today, meat is using really prehistoric technology. They're using animals to turn plants into protein. But at the end of the day, the protein that we seek in meat has nothing to do with it coming from an actual animal. So this same protein can be extracted from a plant or, again, a cell. And when we do this, we're actually cutting out the middleman. There are several macro reasons for the shift towards a more meatless future. Urbanization, population growth, a rise in the middle class, which leads to greater consumption of meat. And in 2016 alone, approximately 55% of the world's population lived in urban settlements. And this percentage is expected to increase to 60% by 2030. Meanwhile, the world's population is expected to surge to 9.6 billion people by 2050, leading to a 61% increase in food production. Emerging markets are driving this growth. China, in particular, is the world's largest consumer of meat, with protein consumption expected to grow 3 to 4% a year thanks to a rising middle class in China. So this increasing demand begs the question of how society will sustainably feed future generations. And meatless companies are looking to fill this gap. So expect to see more of these products in restaurants and the mainstream section of your local grocery store, and hopefully find restaurants everywhere. So what do you think about these products? Do you think these are things that you would actually consume yourself? Are these things that you probably would never consume? Are you kind of afraid of this monster meat? I think a lot of people feel these cell-based meats are kind of creepy because they're actually taking cells and they're creating these meats in labs. So let me know what you think in the comments. I'm always interested to hear what you think. And of course, if you want to dig any deeper in this, you can join Founders Masterclass and learn how to determine your customer avatar and growth model. This allows you to create the foundation for disruption and growth. You can check out the little box to my side, and you can also check out the link below. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is super simple. It's just my first name, Lili, Lili, @financeforentrepreneurs.co. And I look forward to seeing you back here next week.